What happens when a neighborhood rule enforcer goes too far, pepper spraying a woman at her own pool, only to find out her husband just returned from the army? "Ma'am, do you live here?" The words cut through the quiet buzz of kids splashing in the water and the soft chatter of parents stretched out on lounge chairs. It was a late Saturday afternoon in Plano, Texas, the kind of day where the sun clung to the sky a little longer, painting everything in a golden glow. Families were winding down, teenagers were gathered in small circles, and the neighborhood pool smelled faintly of chlorine mixed with sunscreen. But in that peaceful mix of normal sounds and smells, Sharon Whitfield stood with one hand planted firmly on her hip and the other gripping her oversized tote bag, glaring at the woman who had just walked in. That woman was Monica Reed, 42 years old, wearing a light sundress with a towel slung casually over her arm. She had her pool pass tucked into her bag, ready if anyone at the desk asked, though she already knew the gate system had scanned her correctly when she entered. She lived in this neighborhood, paid her HOA dues like everyone else, and all she wanted was a couple of hours of peace before heading back home to prepare dinner. But Sharon blocked her path. "I asked you," Sharon repeated louder this time. "Do you live here?" Monica blinked, a little startled by the sudden interrogation. Around her, heads began to turn. A young boy climbing out of the pool stopped mid-step, dripping water onto the pavement. Two women on lounge chairs adjusted their sunglasses, pretending not to stare but clearly listening. "Yes, I live here," Monica replied evenly, her voice calm. "I'm at 2780 Willow Glen. My key card worked at the gate. Is there a problem?" Sharon's lips curled into a thin smile. "Sometimes people sneak in. You don't look familiar." Monica's brow furrowed. "What do you mean by that?" Instead of answering directly, Sharon shifted her stance, squaring her shoulders like a security guard who had just spotted a threat. "I'm on the HOA board. It's my responsibility to make sure only residents use this pool. So if you don't mind, I'd like to see some ID, proof of address." The words hung in the air, heavier than the humid Texas heat. Monica's fingers tightened around the towel in her hand. She hadn't done anything wrong. She hadn't broken any rule. And yet here she was, being cornered at the entrance as though she was trespassing. "Are you serious?" Monica asked, her voice still calm but laced with disbelief. Sharon didn't budge. "Dead serious. If you live here, you shouldn't have a problem showing me." A murmur rippled across the pool deck. A father with his young daughter whispered something under his breath. Another woman quietly took out her phone, holding it low near her lap as though preparing to record just in case this went somewhere ugly. Monica inhaled slowly. She thought about just pulling out her wallet and flashing her driver's license. It would be the fastest way to shut this down. But why should she? Why was she being singled out when others walked freely past Sharon without so much as a glance? Her patience thinned. "Look, I don't owe you anything," Monica said firmly. "If the HOA wants to check ID, they can have a rule for everyone. Not just me, not just today." The firmness in her tone caught Sharon off guard, but only for a second. Then her jaw tightened and her hand disappeared into her tote bag. "What are you reaching for?" Monica asked cautiously. A man sitting near the shallow end muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." When Sharon pulled out a small black canister and held it at her side, several people around the pool gasped. It was pepper spray. Monica's heart pounded. "You need to put that away," she warned, her voice low but steady. "This is going too far," Sharon's voice rose, echoing across the pool deck. "If you don't leave right now, I'll use it. You're not supposed to be here, and I don't care what excuse you give me." Silence fell, except for the sound of kids treading water. Every eye was locked on the two women. Monica stood her ground, clutching her towel, while Sharon's knuckles whitened around the spray canister. The tension was suffocating. A single wrong move could tip the entire scene into chaos. People were frozen in place, waiting to see who would move first. But before anyone could act, Sharon took a sharp step forward, lifting the canister higher. The standoff had only just begun. The poolside silence shattered with Sharon's sudden movement. Her arm jerked upward, the pepper spray canister gleaming under the fading Texas sunlight. Conversations that had once filled the air were replaced by a collective gasp. Kids clung to the edge of the pool, sensing something serious but not quite understanding what they were seeing. Parents shifted nervously in their seats, caught between disbelief and fear of becoming part of the unfolding confrontation. Monica didn't flinch. Her eyes locked on Sharon's hand, every nerve in her body telling her to back away, but her pride anchoring her in place. She had lived in this neighborhood for nearly 6 years, paid her HOA dues every month, walked these sidewalks, waved to neighbors, grilled in her backyard. And now here she was, accused of not belonging in front of people who knew exactly who she was. Sharon. "Put that down," Monica said firmly, her tone carrying the authority of someone who had been forced to defend herself too many times. "I'm doing my job," Sharon snapped back, her face tightening. "You people think you can walk in anywhere." She caught herself, but the slip had already burned through the crowd like gasoline to a flame. A sharp whisper came from the lounge chairs. "Did she just say what I think she said?" Someone else muttered. "Oh no, not again." Monica's chest heaved as she fought to keep her composure. She raised her voice so everyone could hear. "I live here. I have nothing to prove to you." The man near the shallow end, still in his swim trunks, stood up. "Now she's telling you she's a resident. You need to back off, Sharon. Nobody asked you to play cop," but Sharon only doubled down. She aimed the pepper spray a little higher, finger brushing the trigger, her voice shrill and defensive. "If she really lives here, why can't she just show ID and settle this? Why make such a big deal unless she's hiding something?" The words stung Monica, not because they were true, but because she recognized the tactic. Doubt, accusation, painting her as a liar while Sharon played the role of protector. It wasn't about rules. It was about control. Monica's voice cracked slightly under the weight of anger she tried to contain. "Because I don't owe you my dignity just to sit by the pool." A small chorus of support erupted around her. "That's right. Leave her alone." "This is ridiculous." Phones were raised higher now, their tiny red lights blinking as more people started recording. Sharon turned toward them, flustered. "Are you seriously filming this? Do you all want strangers using your pool? You'll thank me later when I keep this place safe." Safe. The word echoed in Monica's mind, twisted and bitter. Safe from her? From a neighbor walking in with a towel? She took one slow step forward, careful not to make any sudden movement. "You're going to regret this," Monica said softly, her voice carrying both a warning and a plea. "Please don't make this worse." The air felt heavy, as if everyone present was holding their breath. Sharon's grip tightened. Her finger flexed. A teenager at the deep end whispered to his friend, "She's really gonna do it." And then, in one reckless burst of rage, Sharon raised the canister directly at Monica's face. Time slowed. Monica's instincts screamed at her to turn away, but her pride rooted her. She refused to give Sharon the satisfaction of seeing her retreat. A woman from across the pool shouted, "Stop!" A child began crying, the sound sharp against the tension. Sharon's voice, shaky but loud, cut through it all. "Last chance! Show me your ID or get out!" Monica clenched her fists, her throat tightening. She was cornered in her own neighborhood, under the watchful eyes of her neighbors, treated like an intruder in the place she had every right to be. Her silence became its own form of defiance, and that silence was too much for Sharon. With one quick press, the hiss of pepper spray burst into the air. The crowd erupted. Screams, shouts, the splash of someone jumping into the water in shock. Monica stumbled back, clutching her eyes, her towel dropping to the concrete. "Are you out of your mind?" a man yelled, rushing forward. Another woman sprinted to Monica's side, fumbling for bottled water to flush her eyes. Phones recorded every angle. Sharon's arms still trembled in the air, canister raised like a weapon. Her expression a mix of triumph and sudden doubt. But as Monica's cries echoed and neighbors closed in around her, the weight of what had just happened was only beginning to settle. The sharp hiss of the pepper spray seemed to hang in the air long after Sharon's finger had released the nozzle. The acrid scent drifted across the pool deck, stinging the nostrils of anyone standing too close. But for Monica Reed, the burn was immediate and searing. Her hands shot to her face, tears streaming uncontrollably as she tried desperately to blink away the pain. "My eyes! Oh my God, my eyes!" she cried out, stumbling backward into one of the lounge chairs. Her knees buckled and she half fell, half collapsed onto the concrete. Gasps and screams erupted around the pool. The idyllic Saturday scene was shattered. Parents grabbed their children, pulling them close. Phones tilted higher, capturing every second. A man rushed over with a water bottle, unscrewing the cap with frantic urgency. "Here, tilt your head back. Keep your eyes open," he instructed, pouring water over Monica's burning eyelids. Another woman knelt beside her, fanning the air with a towel. "Just breathe, honey, just breathe. You're gonna be okay." Through the sting and blur, Monica could barely make out faces. All she could feel was the fire spreading across her skin, the humiliation of being attacked in front of neighbors, the sheer disbelief that this was happening in her own community pool. Meanwhile, Sharon stood frozen in place, arms still outstretched, the canister dangling in her hand. The confidence that had carried her just seconds ago drained from her expression, replaced by something tight and defensive. Her eyes darted between the bystanders, noticing their glares, their whispers, their judgment. "She assaulted her," someone shouted. "That's a crime," another added, Sharon's lips pressed together. I told her to leave." She refused. "I was protecting the neighborhood," she stammered, though her own voice betrayed uncertainty. The man helping Monica turned his head sharply towards Sharon. "Protecting us from what? A woman with a towel? You've lost your mind." The crowd's energy shifted from shock to anger. Phones weren't just recording anymore. They were being waved in Sharon's direction like evidence, each lens capturing her every twitch. A teenage boy muttered, "She's done." "This is going everywhere," Monica coughed, spitting out the metallic taste that pepper spray always seemed to leave. Her voice was hoarse but steady as she managed to whisper, "You didn't have to do this." Her words pierced through the noise, quiet but heavy, and several people fell silent just to hear her. The woman kneeling beside her brushed her arm gently. "Don't try to talk, sweetheart. We'll get help." Sharon took a step back, shaking her head. No, she's exaggerating. "She's fine, look at her, she's sitting up." But the collective stares around her told a different story. Nobody was siding with Sharon anymore. Then came the voice of a middle-aged man who had been sitting quietly near the pool gate until now. He stood, pointing directly at Sharon. "I've seen you harass people before. But this is assault. Somebody call the police." Several people immediately pulled out their phones. Within seconds, you could hear someone already speaking into their receiver. "Yes, Plano Community Pool, there's been an assault. A woman was pepper sprayed." Sharon's chest rose and fell rapidly. She glanced at the gate as if considering leaving, but she knew it was too late. Too many witnesses. Too many cameras. Running would only seal her guilt. Monica sat hunched forward, trembling while water continued to pour over her face. Every breath came in shallow gasps, but she kept repeating, "I live here. I live here." The phrase wasn't for Sharon anymore. It was for herself, a desperate anchor to remind her she belonged, despite what had just happened. Sharon muttered under her breath, "You people always play the victim." The poolside erupted. "Enough!" someone shouted. "Stop talking!" Another woman snapped, "How dare you say that after what you did?" The energy was reaching a boiling point, neighbors pressing in closer, their outrage palpable. Sharon tried to stand taller, clutching her bag against her chest like armor. "I was just following rules." "That's all?" she insisted. "No," the man near the shallow end said firmly, stepping forward so his shadow loomed over hers. "You weren't following rules. You were following your own bias, and now the whole neighborhood has seen it." The weight of his words landed heavy. Sharon looked around at the circle of eyes surrounding her, realizing the walls were closing in. Her authority, her so-called duty, had evaporated in seconds, and Monica, still shaking, still trying to clear her vision, felt the anger and shame twist into something deeper. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about the message Sharon had sent to everyone watching. But just as the crowd's anger threatened to spiral into chaos, the distant wail of sirens cut through the summer air. The sirens grew louder, weaving through the maze of suburban streets until flashing lights finally lit up the pool gate. By then, the crowd had swelled tighter around Monica, shielding her as best they could. A few parents ushered their children out, whispering explanations they knew would raise more questions later. But most stayed, compelled to witness what would happen when authority arrived. Two officers stepped in, one male and one female, both scanning the tense scene. The female officer spoke first, her voice clipped but calm. "What happened here?" Half a dozen voices erupted at once. She sprayed her, unprovoked. "It's all on camera." Hands shot out, phones angled toward Sharon like glowing spotlights, each holding damning evidence. The male officer raised a hand. "One at a time, please." He glanced at Monica, still sitting on the lounge chair, face wet and blotchy from water. Her towel clung to her lap as she shook slightly. "Ma'am, are you able to talk?" Monica nodded weakly, though her eyes still burned. She coughed. "She attacked me. I was just trying to come in like I always do. She stopped me, demanded ID, and then—" Monica gestured vaguely toward Sharon, her arm trembling. "She sprayed me for nothing." The female officer crouched beside her, lowering her tone. "We'll make sure you get medical attention. You don't have to push through the pain." She turned her head toward the crowd. "Did anyone see the incident clearly?" Dozens of hands went up. Sharon, clutching her bag like a lifeline, finally broke her silence. "They're exaggerating. I'm on the HOA board. I was enforcing rules." She refused to show proof of address. "I warned her multiple times." The male officer's eyes narrowed. "You pepper sprayed her over an HOA rule?" Sharon bristled. "She was trespassing." "No," a man from the shallow end barked. "She wasn't. She lives here." "Everyone knows she lives here," a woman's voice cut through next. "She kept telling Sharon over and over, but Sharon wouldn't listen." The female officer straightened, her patience thinning. "Ma'am," she said firmly to Sharon, "do you have any proof she was trespassing?" Sharon's jaw tightened. "No, but I know what I saw." "What you saw," the male officer replied sharply, "was a neighbor using her community pool. And instead of contacting management or security, you escalated to assault." The words landed like a hammer. The crowd murmured approval, some nodding, others whispering, "Finally." Monica shifted in her seat, her breathing uneven. She whispered to the woman helping her. "I can't believe this. I can't believe this actually happened." The woman squeezed her shoulder. "You're not alone. We've all seen her pull this before, but now everyone's watching." The officers asked for witnesses to step forward. Immediately, 3 neighbors offered their phones, each with clear footage of the moment Sharon raised the canister and sprayed. The female officer examined one, her face stiffening at the undeniable evidence. Meanwhile, Sharon grew more frantic. "You don't understand. If people like her just walk in unchecked, it puts everyone at risk. I was protecting families." That sentence snapped something in the air. The crowd erupted in boos and shouts. "Are you serious? You've got nerve!" "Protecting families from what?" "She's a mom herself." Monica's voice, though raspy, cut through the noise. "From me? You were protecting them from me?" The rawness in her tone silenced even the loudest voices. Sharon opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted around, searching for someone, anyone, to support her. But the crowd had shifted. Even those who once quietly tolerated Sharon's confrontational style now stood with arms crossed, lips pressed tight, no longer willing to shield her. The female officer turned to her partner. "Call paramedics for her," she said, nodding toward Monica. Then, facing Sharon, "Ma'am, you'll need to come with us." Sharon recoiled. "Arrest for doing my duty?" The male officer pulled out a pair of handcuffs. "For assault," he clarified. "Your duty doesn't excuse breaking the law." Gasps rippled across the pool as Sharon's arms were gently pulled behind her. The clink of metal echoed like punctuation in the summer air. Children peeked from behind their parents' legs, wide-eyed, while adults whispered fiercely among themselves. Monica leaned back, closing her swollen eyes. For the first time since walking through the gate, she felt a hint of relief. Not because justice had been fully served, she knew it was only beginning, but because the community had seen Sharon for what she truly was. Still, the burn in her eyes wasn't the only pain she carried. Humiliation lingered, heavier than the summer heat. But the real shock came later that evening when another figure entered the picture, one who carried the weight of a uniform and a voice that could no longer be ignored. Her husband had come home.